Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 25:21 Martial Law. The entire meeting fell silent for a moment, with only the gazes and shallow breathing of each person remaining on the channel. Zhang Yi spoke, his tone indifferent. Let me make this clear first. As long as Tianhai City is not under direct threat, and as long as I can mobilize personnel and fleets, I will do my best to rush to any region that needs support, and it will be the kind of support that can solve the problem, not just for show. A circle of people on the screen nodded in unison, and praise followed. With you here, I feel at ease. Huashu Kingdom was able to survive this crisis because of you. The title, Backbone, is not given lightly. Everyone's faces were filled with relaxed smiles. Being able to cling to Zhang Yi's powerful backing made them feel much more at ease. Upon closer reflection, in the 5 years following the apocalypse, ever since Zhang Yi rose to power, it was he who had been supporting the Huashu Kingdom's progress. Ho too cannot leave her homeland, and the top experts in other regions are not up to par. Every time, she has to rely on Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi laughed and narrowed his eyes. All right, but from now on you'll have to listen to me completely. The air in the room paused for a moment. Several channels went silent simultaneously. Eyes met, and hesitation was written on every face. Zhang Yi didn't press the issue, but instead adopted a reasonable tone. I won't take your positions, nor will I concern myself with your livelihoods or taxes. What I want is a unified wartime command chain, intelligence received from the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Sky and Sea, combat orders reorganized and broken up according to war zones, and emergency plans executed with a single click. You can retain your civil administration, economic rights, and independent training rights. But once wartime response begins, if I say east, don't go west. If it weren't for the fact that they belong to the same country and that Zhang Yi needed their contributions when necessary, he wouldn't bother with them at all. Most of these guys are just holding him back. It's laughable that someone would still expect to enjoy his protection without giving anything in return. At the very least, one must offer their loyalty and act as a good subordinate. Zhang Yi leaned back on the sofa and made his point clear. If you want my help, you must follow the same orders. Huashu has been divided into 6 regions for too long, each with its own agenda, which is dangerous in the current situation. I'm not forcing you. I'll give you time to respond. The subtext is that if you don't want to follow my orders, then there's no need for me to support you. After all, things are different now. Zhang Yi no longer needs anything from the 6 regions. Instead, the 6 regions are eager to get closer to him. No one responded. The senior officials of the 6 regions looked very hesitant, as if they found it hard to accept losing their supreme power. Zhang Yi didn't take it seriously and said indifferently, "That's all for now, meeting adjourned." One by one, the lights on the screens went out, and the city lights and night once again filled the glass edges of the conference room. The Shengjing Regional Command Center was brightly lit, the light reflecting on everyone's faces. Meng Yuanjun, Hutu, Shang Daowen, and several senior staff officers had shifting expressions. Meng Yuanjun placed his military cap on the corner of the table and turned to Hutu and Shang Daowen. What are your opinions on what Chaos said? Hutu replied without hesitation, I agree with his proposal. A unified command during wartime will save time spent probing each other. Our city defense network and underground network can serve as a model for joint operations. But we need to clearly define the boundaries. If he mobilizes troops, we will cooperate. If he mobilizes grain, we will verify it. But if he tries to manipulate public sentiment, that won't work. The Shengjing region will still be under our control. Huda no longer felt any jealousy towards Zhang Yi, because ever since she learned that Zhang Yi had advanced to the rank of knight, she understood that there was an insurmountable chasm between them. Instead of secretly competing with him, it's better to enjoy the protection he provides. Immediately, a staff officer pulled out a stack of papers, tapped his knuckles on the cover, and said solemnly, I also think we can agree to his conditions, but there must be legal basis and credibility. The wartime mandate should specify 1. Under what circumstances will it be triggered? 2. Under what circumstances will it be revoked? 3. Who will supervise it? We should also add a loss mitigation clause, which stipulates that if the Joint Chiefs of Staff makes a mistake in judgment and causes significant losses, there will be an independent assessment and accountability process. Hutu and the monk Dawan both looked at the old man as if he were an idiot. Although the other party holds a high position of power, it does not mean that he is very smart. Why are you looking at me like that? Am I wrong? The old man said with great displeasure. Do you want to hear what you're saying? Negotiating a contract with a night-level expert, someone powerful enough to single-handedly support an entire nation. Hutu scoffed. Contracts are meant to bind others, but we have no power to control chaos. So, even if you sign one, it's just a piece of waste paper. The old man looked embarrassed, yet he had no way to refute her words. After discussion, it was finally decided to agree to Zhang Yi's request, and from now on, they would follow Zhang Yi's command in major matters. In the northeast region, the fire flickered in the command post below the snow line. Ji Changhai, wrapped in a military overcoat, said, I have no objections. If a real battle breaks out, 1 bugle call and 1 line are more effective than 10 command groups. There's only one condition. The right to resettle the border residents is mine. I know where everyone's livestock is and which river they can cross. Han Shanzhou nodded. There's one more thing. The Joint Chiefs of Staff's intelligence must be transparent to us. We can't let the lower-level officers carry out their tasks in the dark. All right. Ji Changhai instructed the clerk to record his order. We'll tell Chaos that the Northeast region has no objection to this matter and fully supports him as the person in charge. However, there are 2 conditions for implementation. The border guards of the northern country cast long shadows on the ice with their night patrol lights. Chun Xuanba stood in the wind, his hat brim pulled low. Soldiers need a single command, and I know that better than anyone. But I need clear and unambiguous rules of engagement. What constitutes crossing the line, what constitutes accidental injury, and what constitutes no pursuit? If you write it all down unclearly, and something happens to our brothers, who will explain it to their mothers? Now that Chaos has the strength to protect the Huashu Kingdom, as long as it doesn't violate basic principles, what's wrong with me obeying your orders? In the northwest region, sandstorms lashed against window frames. Xiao Lai stood in front of the map, silent for a long time. You know what I'm most afraid of? I'm afraid the Northwest will become someone else's logistical tale. He turned to several officers, but today is not the time to talk about pride. Li Changgong is gone, and we can't keep gritting our teeth and bearing this humiliation. Earth War God Chi Yukuan said in a low voice, let's stick together and get through the winter first, and talk about ideals again in the spring. Xiao Lai nodded and gave a wry smile. All right, reported as approved. P.S. The authority to handle special cases in the Northwest is partially retained. Don't let them tell us to fill the gaps with a simple charge forward. In the southwest region, a cold current of heavy snow fell outside the window. Juegwa lit a lamp on the table. Giving away power is not about giving away people's hearts. It's about giving away the handle of a knife. People's hearts depend on whether you can save them. Luo Zhua clasped his hands together. Such is the law of cause and effect. If we can use his power to protect our people, then power is but a wisp of smoke. Juegwa said, then we support Lord Zhang Yi's decision. Pack the disciples' belongings. If things get really chaotic, send the elderly and weak away first. Chapter 25-22 Martial Law, Part 2. In the Jiangnan region, the night sky is bathed in golden light from the port lights. Zhu Zheng stood by the window, his fingers gripping the windowsill. Lan Xinqing stood behind him, waiting for him to speak. Zhu Yu leaned back on the sofa, as quiet as a beautiful rag doll. To pay or not to pay? Zhu Zheng asked in a low voice. Lan Xinqing opened his mouth, but said nothing. Does it make a difference whether you pay or not? Zhu Zheng suddenly realized. It seems that in the Jiangnan region, I can only say a few words in Blizzard City. And that's only because he's giving me face. In the East China Sea region, the sea breeze, carrying the scent of salt, blows through the command corridor. Li Guangxiao, Xuanwu, Zhu Ke, and Li Changgong surrounded the sea chart. Xuanwu said in a deep voice, "I agree with Chaos's proposal. The coastline is long, and we are under too much pressure. Unified command can save us a lot of wrangling. However, our navy doesn't want to be a target anymore." Zhu Ke pointed to the sea chart. "Without Chaos help, we can hardly even set sail, let alone have any command." Li Guangxiao tapped a thumbtack. "I'll bring this up." Dong Hai agrees, but an emergency exemption must be attached. He looked up at the distant sea. The sea is unfamiliar, and when it's unfamiliar, don't be reckless. Entrusting your life to something stronger is perhaps the safest choice right now. It was late at night. The wind in Tianhai City made the flags on the rooftops flutter wildly. Only Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Lu Karen remained in the living room. Lu Karen crossed her arms, took off her shoes, and put her two small, white feet on the coffee table, facing Zhang Yi. "Brother Zhang Yi, you're putting the worst in front of us. By tomorrow morning, I guarantee someone will contact you to offer their allegiance, and someone else will be plotting against you behind your back." Zhang Yi laughed. "Let's take it over. As long as we can reach a consensus in the end, I don't care about the process. It would be best if we could reach a consensus, but if we can't, I will still follow the rule of whoever expresses their opinion first, I will save first. Treating everyone equally is the ideal, but distinguishing between priorities is the reality." Yang Xinxin nodded. "They don't have the power to say no." Zhang Yi stretched and said, "Thank you for your hard work. Karen, move the maintenance window for the fleet forward. If a few major regions make a decision tomorrow, we need to show them tangible changes within 48 hours, such as the first batch of evacuation list shipments." Lu Karen waved his hand. "Leave it to me. I've already optimized the cooling cycle of the main guns of the 3 ships, and the energy stack of the Sky Sea Fortress can also squeeze out another 8% of its peak value." Zhang Yi glanced at the sea of city lights. "They'll give us an answer within 24 hours. Whether they do or not, we'll proceed according to plan." He paused, then softened his voice. "Everyone has worked hard. Get some sleep first. When we wake up tomorrow, the world will still be changing, and we will have to change along with it." In the hazy, gray light before dawn, the lights were still on in the high-level conference rooms of the 6 major regions. The fax machine in Shengjing spit out page after page, and Shang Dawen bound the wartime appointment letter, draft for review, into a booklet. On the snowy roads of northeast China, Ji Changhai made the car leave 2 deep ruts that spelled agree. At the National Protection Army's outpost, Chen Xuanba signed his name on the 3-stage firepower regulations. Behind the sand dunes in the northwest, Xiao Lai exhaled a breath of stale air towards Qinsheng and pressed the send button. As soon as the temple bell rang in the southwest, Jiuegua clasped his hands in prayer, and Luozhua sent the word support to Tianhai. At the port in Jiangnan, Zhu Zheng smiled at the north wind and was the first to express his loyalty to Zhang Yi. In the chart room of the East China Sea, Li Guangxiao wrote 4 words after the additional clauses. "I wish to maintain a harmonious relationship with Your Majesty, Chaos forever." Meanwhile, at Tianhai's terminal, messages agreeing to hand over supreme wartime command to Zhang Yi were gradually being relayed by high-ranking officials from the 6 major regions. The swords of a nation are being drawn into the same hand. However, Zhang Yi did not see any of this at the moment, because he knew this would be the outcome and did not care much about the form it took. In the underground training room, the lights were dimmed and the walls were made of excellent sound-absorbing material, leaving only the faint sounds of breathing and metal brushing against the air. Zhang Yi tossed his coat aside, his palm rubbing the knife handle. It felt icy cold, and when he applied force, the small bumps on the handle would dig into his palm, causing a slight pain. But this allows him to hold the knife more steadily, and the pain gives him a real sense of being alive. He liked the feel of it. In the 5th year of the apocalypse, he only felt safe and had the confidence to face any threat when he had a weapon firmly in his hand. Come on, let's get started. He smiled and beckoned to Liangyu, who was dressed in a black, form-fitting tracksuit and had a well-proportioned figure. I've had too many things on my mind lately, and I can't sleep well without breaking a sweat. This is a good way to warm up. Only by staying in a fighting state can I be ready for any potential conflict. Zhang Yi rubbed his strong wrist. His physical fitness was now extremely high. Zhou Kur's immortal transformation surgery was a great success. Liangyu rolled up her sleeves, her temples damp with sweat, looking as neat and efficient as ever. She gripped a practice sword. Let's practice the basic moves 3 times first. The two got into position. Their steps were like riding on the ground, each stroke controlled yet expansive. Zhang Yi's knife moves from his waist, not his arm. The power seems to be twisting up from the soles of his feet. Liangyu's knife was light as the wind, yet the wind could blow the curtains close to the window. 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, the sweat dripped onto the mat and was quickly evaporated by the heat. Stop. Liangyu raised her hand and carefully guided Zhang Yi's movements. Relax your shoulders, sink your hips, and don't use your neck to guide your gaze. If you look too much, your knife will fall apart. Zhang Yi obediently adjusted, exhaled, and asked with a smile, when do you think I can be like you, where sincerity can move mountains? I can only exert 7/10 of my strength now. Can you give me a shortcut to turn those 7/10 into 9/10 or even 10/10? Liangyu's ability is very simple. It is the purest form of enhancement. In a conventional sense, this ability has a low ceiling and is easy to counter. However, if one can reach their full potential, it can also have some very surprising effects. Liangyu's, where there is metal and stone, there is hope, is not a superpower, but a martial arts killing move formed by combining swordsmanship with her qi and mind. Its instantaneous explosive power can far exceed the upper limit of its own superpower index, which Zhang Yi is very envious of. Of course you can learn if you want. Liangyu sat down against the wall, her back against the cold concrete. This move, Jiangjujing, is about calming his mind and forgetting himself. The knife is there, but his mind is not. The mind is there, but the knife is not. Only when the two are combined can it be called a rival. She paused, then added, it took me 30 years to dare say that I can do it occasionally. Zhang Yi wiped his face with a towel, paused for 2 seconds, and said, 30 years? Forget it. I'll take another route. Liangyu chuckled and tossed him a bottle of water. You're the kind of person who always knows how to take shortcuts. Fine, your path doesn't have to be the same as anyone else's. Chapter 25-23 Martial Law, Part 3. The two sat side by side to catch their breath, the only sound in the training room being the soft hum of the ventilation machine. Zhang Yi looked down at his palm. The calluses resembled rings of a tree. He suddenly remembered many people and many things, but then forcefully pushed those thoughts back into his heart. Vibration of intelligent system equipment. He raised his wrist to answer the call, and the projector popped up, showing a brown-haired man with thick shoulders and a heavy back appearing in midair. The background was snow, the wind was like a knife, and there was smoke coming from buildings in the distance, with red and blue warning lights flashing on and off. Alexei? Zhang Yi sat up straight, his tone softening. Who else could that burly, polar bear-like man opposite them be but Alexei Ivanov, the Thor Perron of the Pantheon of Fremont? The wind is really strong over there, can you hear me? I can hear you. The man opposite him was breathing heavily, his cheeks were flushed, and his forehead was covered in sweat. Chaos, brother. I have to be frank. The Arctic Ocean has opened up, and something has come up. We initially thought it was just an unusually cold wave, but it turns out they've changed the entire weather. He turned the camera outwards, and in just a few seconds, Zhang Yi saw unnatural icicles forming on the high walls of Snow City, as if they had been carved by someone. A dark shadow streaked across the sky, resembling a beast but not quite, moving at an extremely fast speed. The street sign was covered in thick ice, as if frozen in another season. We discovered long ago that something exists beneath the ice of the Arctic Ocean. That's why the Pantheon organized an operation before, and we benefited greatly from it. However, I never expected that the races down there would be so powerful. They simply emerged from the glacier and instantly seized the entire northern region of Fremont. Kalen City has fallen once again. Alexei withdrew the camera, his face paler than snow, his expression incredibly somber. No. To be precise, they froze it into an ice city at their casual touch. They are too powerful. We didn't even have a chance to confront them head-on. We've been driven out. Fremont's population was already small, and now only a few million people are on the run. We've joined a convoy and are on the run. Chaos, I need support, and right now, you're the only one who can help us. He is Perrin, the thunder god of the Pantheon, Alexei Ivanov, a name that has always been associated with thunder and heroism. At this moment, he didn't beat around the bush, even saying please very quickly. At this point, asking for help was asking for survival. Zhang Yi's gaze deepened. The ancient civilization beneath the Arctic Ocean seemed to be more terrifying than he had imagined. This matter had already been foreshadowed when the Tsongyuan clan first appeared. Zhang Yi was silent for a few seconds, then stared intently into his eyes. Alexei, I know you're not someone who speaks lightly. Since you've come to me, I will never use sentiment as a mere excuse. But I must tell you, things are just as chaotic here in Huashu. There are spying on the border, unusual activity at sea, and the frigid region you described has appeared in the north. The borders are temporarily closed, and I need to secure the lives of 100 million people first. He slowed down and spoke more steadily. I can't bring the battle lines to your side right now. That would be an irresponsible decision for both of us. As he said this, he sincerely extended his hand to Alexei. But if you're willing, bring your family to Tianhai City, and I'll provide you with the safest place to live. Don't worry about the procedures or travel issues. I'll take care of everything. But if you don't want to leave, I respect your choice. You can send your family over first, and I will definitely protect them. Friendship aside, Zhang Yi did not hesitate at all when it came to matters of principle. He didn't know what the situation was like in Fremont, and he wasn't willing to risk his life for another country. Alexei closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again, his gaze fixed on something in the distance. Thank you, brother. I'll remember what you gave me. But I can't leave. Behind me are not just my family, but also my comrades, my country, and my people. My family isn't leaving either. They say it's better to stay here than to live elsewhere. That's how we Fremont people are. He smiled gently. Don't worry about me. You have your country, and I have my faith. We both have to safeguard our own countries and beliefs. Good. Zhang Yi nodded, his gaze remaining fixed on her. I won't try to persuade you anymore. Ask me any time if it's within my power. For example, maps, detection algorithms, energy supply plans, or... He paused, then made a very practical promise. If you change your mind and decide to leave, I can use the dimensional gate to get there as quickly as possible. Alexei let out a heavy sigh. That's enough. I owe you this favor. Let's have a drink together again when we've both settled things in the rear. Waiting for your news. Zhang Yi raised his hand, as if giving a hug through the wind. Survive. The call ended. The projected light faded, and the training room returned to silence. The sound of the wind still seemed to whistle in their ears. Zhang Yi tightened the screws on the water bottle and remained silent for a long time. Liang Yu didn't interrupt, but just watched him quietly and threw the towel over. He took the towel, his smile subtle but clear. I know what you want to ask, but I have to be clear, Tianhai City and the people around me are my top priority. Especially at times like these, we must not let our emotions get the better of us. Even if they are friends far away, I will not gamble with the lives of the entire city by taking advantage of their crisis. Is Zhang Yi capable of helping Fremont? Without a doubt, yes. But he still chose not to help Fremont. When faced with a situation he didn't understand, people prioritize loving themselves. Although the situation in Huashu Kingdom is temporarily safe, it is only temporary. He didn't want to waste a single ounce of his strength. because no one knew whether that ounce of strength might become a fatal factor affecting the survival of his family and friends in the future. Liang Yu nodded. Hold the knife firmly before you talk about saving anyone. You did the right thing. You gave him a glimmer of hope to escape, which is already quite loyal, and you also upheld your boundaries. Zhang Yi stood up, flexed his wrist, and gently tapped the back of his blade against his armor, producing a crisp metallic sound. Come on, let's continue. I was still a beat slow on the third move of that set. I need to train my body to the point where I don't need my brain to remind me, so I won't let you down on the battlefield. Good. Liang Yu stood up and resumed her stance. Remember, the knife begins in the feet and falls on the heart. Under the lights, the two figures crossed paths once again. The wind whistled through the underground corridors like a quiet yet resolute river. The world outside is in turmoil, but at this moment, his strength and focus overlap and lock together in a small training room. This is where his sense of security lies. Here ends today's chapter. I hope you liked it. Kindly do also subscribe to my gaming channel. I have to Fina a way to survive. Thanks.